to Park Hopper Daily. We are here with our correspondents, Anita Boyer and Joe Pallister, who have returned from a 2-month honeymoon in Walt Disney World. So this is the second part of our conversation with them about their experience. And of course, the biggest question that everybody's asking who has not been back down to the parks is it worth it to go to Walt Disney World right now? Is it worth it to travel? Is it worth it to travel to one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world? So one way we thought we would take a look at this is to explore the good, the bad, and the may. So Anita, walk us through what was the good, the bad, and the may of your experience in Walt Disney World.
So let's start with the bad so that we can get into the good, and then we'll kind of dust in the meh at the end. Basically what we did was we made a list of every single change that we experienced, and we're like, how do we organize this? Is so much information, how do we organize it? So we kind of put it into categories like things that we hope don't stick around, the things that we hope go back to normal eventually, the bad. The good, the stuff that we hope is like a change for the better, our little COVID silver linings, and then the stuff that we're like, do it, don't do it, whatever, it's all good. So the bad, I think the number one most important thing that we cannot wait to go back to normal is shows. Shows. There is no fireworks show. There was a firework poof, that I was calling it like a poof. Here it comes. Like every 15 minutes just during the holidays, and not even while all the holiday decorations stayed up past Christmas. I think it probably played a couple days after Christmas. It wasn't even playing when we were back there on January 1st. The little and the castle projections, that was all done, which was good because it was causing just as much of a crowd as the fireworks do, and that was the whole point of not having the fireworks. So that, and Fantasmic, the Hollywood Studios, the show that they usually project on the Chinese theater, that whole thing, that's not happening now. Of course, any of the bigger parades with, the whole flotilla going by.
On the show at Hollywood Studios with the Star Wars whole crew up on the stage.
Yeah.
In that little, in front of the
Rivers of Light too at Animal Kingdom. Although they have an outdoor pavilion, I've kind of wondered. I'm like, why couldn't you do Rivers of Light in some sort of
I feel
socially
like
distanced way?
If people weren't buttheads, I think that they could. Getting them into those seats and getting them out, like they could set it up so that it was safe and physically distanced. I don't think that there is any way that they could clear that space keeping people physically distanced.
There you go.
I kind of feel, and
it would take too many staff to manage that correctly.
And then the performers too, like I know that Disney has had some clashes with Actors Equity and like union things about testing and keeping performers safe. So but it would be so great. And I feel the same way about Fantasmic. Like there hopefully is something in the works. This is not like, this is my hope. This isn't even a rumor that they're working on a way to figure out to get some of this stuff back, because we miss it.
Yeah, and then you've got the shows like at Animal Kingdom, the Lion King, Festival of the Lion King, which was definitely a big favorite for our family. The Finding Nemo musical.
Yes.
Although at Hollywood Studios, they have been doing the Frozen sing-along, I believe.
Yeah, we saw it, and they're able to manage it, and it's the same thing. Like they're so particular about loading and unloading that theater, and like the distance between groups. I mean, it's rows front and back and side to side, which is wonderful. And the actors are very, very spread out on stage. So that was good. And then when you get out, it's like the cast members are there blocking you. They're like, stay in your seat until your row is exiting. And it's such a small group compared to like one of the bigger amphitheaters that they're able to manage it.
Yeah.
But even that was like at the absolute cusp of what we would be comfortable with.
Gotcha.
in COVID times.
There's also the bird show in Animal Kingdom.
But
that they
that's
have.
still happening.
No, that's what I'm saying. They have that. That's still
Well,
going
we're
on.
going to stay focused right on the list.
Okay.
So we're talking about the bad right
Sorry,
now.
guys.
Frozen.
I broke the rules too, Joe.
So, well, yes, that some of them are still there, which is good. So I get that can jump to the good stuff. One really important thing that I'm looking forward to is feeling safe dining indoors. So while Disney is offering indoor dining, it's not something that we are comfortable with partaking in. And so many of I was thinking, Florida, there's going to be so many options for dining outdoors, but there's not a lot of like sit down outdoor dining. It's much better at Disney Springs, and that's where we did like most of our like outdoor like table service meals. Plenty of outdoor dining for quick service at Disney, but not a lot. And it makes sense. It's Florida. They have to be able to operate whether it's pouring rain or not. So I can understand why they don't have as many options outdoors.
Or when it's 90 degrees with 90% humidity.
Yes.
6 months of the year.
Yep. Being able to actually meet and hug and pose with the characters. I very much like meeting Mickey is the number one thing on my list every time I go to Disney World. And yeah, we really missed being able to go in and take our funny pictures and
I mean, if memory serves, it was meeting Mickey where Joe proposed to you.
Yes. Mickey and Minnie.
Mickey and Minnie together in their celebration outfits. Yeah. It was such a cool.
That was really cool.
Like, see, we need to get back in there. Being able to take photos without masks on, I really miss that. Like, even I was thinking it would be so great if Disney PhotoPass would like block off a section and just have one spot like in front of the castle, like exactly one spot where if you wait in a line and you stand in a certain spot, they can take your photo without your mask on. I think that would be a very popular line, and I think that would help keep, because what happens is people don't go to the photo pass, they go off to the side and sneak their mask off anyway, and sure, a cast member is going over and telling them put your mask back on, but it still happened, and people are still trying to like find a sneaky way around it. So it would be nice if they could set up in a safe way, a distanced outdoor safe way for people to just have one zone where they can take this one photo with the castle in the background, no mask. I think that would be really great.
But I wonder if they don't do that because of what you said. It's like if they open that door to there being this one PhotoPass location where you can do that, then it's like people will be going to other PhotoPass locations. And at Magic Kingdom, I was able to take my mask off. Why can't I now? I mean, unfortunately, these are the kinds of park goers that mean that none of us can.
Or even not going to another PhotoPass, even just going off to the side and be like, well, I'm far enough away from people, I can take my mask off.
Or like, they have their mask off, why can't I have my mask off?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Unfortunately.
It's a can of Disney worms. Just in general, I can't wait till we don't have to wear masks. It did not bother me while we were there. The only time that I really got heated about it was when I was walking and there was someone else without a mask on. Like, that is enough to pop your Disney Magic Serenity bubble in an instant. And even though I do have to commend Disney, they're doing as good of a job as can be done. They have specific cast members walking around with the signs, specifically telling people. Every cast member is on the lookout, whether it's their duty or not. And
PhotoPass people were really, really good about it. That's that jumped out for me. The PhotoPass people would, in the middle of taking pictures of another group, if they saw someone without a mask, they would stop and go over and say, you need to put the mask on.
Joe played backup one time. This group of teenagers was just blatantly ignoring, they were eating whatever they were eating or drinking, and the PhotoPass person was like, you guys, you need to put your mask on. Don't forget your mask. And they just laughed and walked right by him. And then Joe's like, hey, put your mask on. Yeah. And I don't know if you know, but that's scary. And they were just like, and the PhotoPass was just like, Thank you. Like, it's teamwork.
Yeah.
I wasn't there when we weren't there when it was blazing hot. So I'm not sure. I have definitely heard from people that the summer was a different experience.
Yeah, I know some people who were down there in September and said that it was very challenging, and they were committed to the mask, but it was like you needed to have 2 or 3 masks with you because you would just be sweating so much. You would need to change out, and like definitely a situation where they were saying to me that it was like you needed to take breaks on the regular, like every hour you needed to find one of the locations that they've set up where you can take your mask off and sit down in a stationary way. Otherwise it was just too much. So
yeah, we also noticed that it made it very hard to stay hydrated because you were afraid to touch the mask and like do masking wrong. You are not allowed to take your mask off while you're walking around, and you're not allowed to take your mask off in line, and like those are like the main like quick sip moments. Also, you like we usually I don't I guess looking back on it, they're kind of unsanitary, but we were fans of the drinking fountains. I mean, not anymore, but we were always refilling our water bottles there or grabbing a quick sip, and now it's like, okay, hydration has to be like an alarm. It needs like you need to be super conscious about it because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
So, and that was my next one, not being able to eat or drink in line or on the go.
Yeah, I mean, especially you think about World Showcase. I mean, that's what we're all used to during these festivals. You know, you get your food and you get your drink and your rosé and you're walking around World Showcase. That doesn't happen anymore if you're
and I felt like, especially the Festival of the Arts. So we were there for 3 different festivals in one trip. We got there for the tail end of the Food and Wine Festival, then the Festival of the Holidays, and our last day we got to sneak into Festival of the Arts. Because all of the art tents are set up, there's very few places to pull over and stop and eat. By the park opened at 11. We got there at 10. And they let us in, so that's like another thing we're going to talk about in the future. Like, is this early park access actually a perk, or is it just something that's happening and you're going to call it a perk? Anyway, because of all the art tents set up, like there's almost no spots and there's so many people. By noon we were like, okay, we're leaving. Like I had it in my mind, like, because we were driving home, we could leave anytime. I was like, let's stay, let's close out the park and then we'll leave and get a hotel.
We were thinking of leaving at night.
By noon we were like, too many people,
we're done.
And there's no place to pull over, there's no place that's not already like full of people. So that's I can't wait till you can just actually drink your drink and walk to another spot. Obviously anything that's closed, we can't wait for it to be able to reopen. That list is so exhaustive that, you know, I don't want to just like go through and like name all the stuff that's closed. Plus, by the time we post it might be different. I feel like Disney's making announcements every like 30 seconds about changes.
I mean, geez.
Yeah.
I will say one thing that I can't wait to come back, and I hope it does come back before my daughter and I go back down, is we always get the All-American Sundae at the Plaza Ice Cream Parlor in Magic Kingdom. It was actually the first place we ever went in the parks together on what has become an annual girls trip. Didn't happen this year, obviously. In September, but I brought Ella. That was the first place we went when we walked into Magic Kingdom. We went to the ice cream parlor. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, but you know, first Disney trip, all rules out the window.
Yes.
We ordered just a regular small ice cream, and they made her, it was pixie dust right out of the gate. They made her this huge sundae with like chocolate ears and everything, and they were like, have a great trip. And so ever since then we always go back there. And they've been closed since reopening, so
that's reason enough not to go for your first trip during that story. Like
it was so special. I mean, it really was.
No, I totally, there's you can feel the places that aren't there, and you don't really notice it until you go up to go in and you're like, oh no. Like, I have a picture of me at Trader Sam's, like hanging off the door, like, let me in. that was my number one moment. For the sake of the amazing, wonderful, beautiful, heroic cast members, I can't wait till they don't have to wear face shields and masks. From working in any guest-facing position, they have to wear the shield as well. And especially like the servers. Oh, I mean, I appreciate it. It's why I felt safe dining at Disney, because they were so covered. But I'm like, this is this is a hellish job anyway, and now you're gonna wear a mask and a face shield like that. Oh, and then we had a couple servers who had glasses on top of it, and I'm like, I'm sorry. 25-30% tip for you. I'm sorry. Thank you for being here.
Take my money.
Yeah. Again, just like another thing, we can't wait for that comfort to come back, like to get rid of that white noise hum of stress and judgment and fear, and just to feel comfortable as well. Like we mentioned dining inside, but also on the rides and indoor attractions. There were a lot. I mean, we snuck on Peter Pan because we rope dropped Magic Kingdom one day and there was no one in, like we just walked right onto Peter Pan and we're like, okay, we got to do this. But like we didn't do a lot of the other indoor rides because we were just scared. I'm like, I don't want to go to Disney and be like, you know, it's very real. Feeling good, talking to strangers. There were a few moments we shared in our last episode, you know, some moments where we had some real connections, but for the most part, you are not making eye contact and you are not getting close enough to just be like, hey, what's your story? How's it going? I've done several solo trips to Disney and that is the best part. I mean, even, and like when we go together too, like you meet people and you talk to them at the bar and you end up, you join tables or you know, like you
ride the Skyliner with another group. Yeah. Where are you from? And you have a whole connection with.
I think we convinced someone to buy Disney Vacation Club.
Yeah, last time we were there.
Yeah. I mean, I remember sitting on my last September in 2019 on my last girls trip with my daughter. It was something as simple as like we were taking the bus from Pop Century over to Animal Kingdom. Oh no, it was Epcot. And the woman sitting next to us just like struck up conversation. And she was like so pumped that we were on a mother-daughter trip and it was just the two of us. And we talked about books that my daughter might like to read. She was a school teacher from the Midwest. And it was just so cool. But that kind of stuff happens all the time at Walt Disney World. And as opposed to when we're home in New York, where we're like, don't talk to me. There, for whatever reason, it's like, I'm willing to be friends with everybody.
It had a much more New York City kind of vibe this time. Because there are actual physical dividers and then the fear divider of like, I don't know where you come from. I don't know what you know. I don't talk to me.
I don't know how you felt that a lot more. Your COVID protocols, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Big one that we're very excited to hopefully come back in the future, single rider lines. That, I mean, we always do that for Test Track. When we were at Disneyland, we would do it for Indiana Jones. Like there's just certain rides where the ride itself is so like we're okay if we're not riding it together, and being able to go, I'd rather go on it 3 times by myself than once together. Is that mean? I don't mean it mean.
No.
You're married now.
Yeah. So I'm gonna skip this next one because I have something that's on both lists, or maybe I'll just say it. Fast passes. It's on the good, it's on the bad, but it's also on the good. And here's why. I do miss the joy and the fun of like knowing like, okay, this is my Magic Kingdom day. I definitely have a fast pass for Peter Pan, Splash Mountain, Thunder Mountain Railroad. It's like that is an extra level of security that fast pass gives you. But I was happy that they didn't have it because fast pass is what makes the standby line so long.
Yeah.
So like Flight of Passage has been like 25-45 minute wait. And like Peter Pan, we walked right on, you know, relatively early in the morning, but it's like, it's those little things where it's like, okay, so I might not for myself have, this is like my socialist brain being like, so I'm not going to have the benefit, but we all are going to share a little bit more of a benefit by not having fast pass.
Yeah,
And
you're saying it levels the playing field.
It levels the playing field, because then you don't have like the Disney pros kind of being able to like have their
work the app, you know.
Yeah. And then it's overwhelming for a Disney pro. Like, I live on the My Disney Experience app. I live on the website. I lived on Carly Weisel's Instagram this summer, and WDW Prep School, and like everyone who was sharing like the up to the second news on what's open, what's this, what's that. I am a Disney pro, and it is overwhelming to think about planning a trip and fast pass, like all this stuff. So I can't even imagine
in advance, you know. I mean, we've talked about this before. It's one of the reasons people have come to you. I came to you at one point to help plan a trip. People have come to me since I started going to help them plan trips, because when you're making dining reservations 6 months in advance and fast passes 60 days out, I mean, and if you're not up at 6 a.m., you're gonna lose. I mean, it's a stressful.
I know. It really is.
Planning,
so,
you know?
so that's why, like, I kind of I had fast pass on both lists, because I'm like, I do selfishly, I love it, but like egalitarianly, I was happy that it kind of leveled it for people. We want our international humans back. We want the Disney College program back. We miss them and that energy, and it is a palpable difference, because I feel like the average age of the cast members has gone up a couple of decades. So there's not as much like youth and vibrance and like, I'm just here and I'm so excited. Definitely there is some of that, and we definitely saw some of that, but we also saw some instances where it was very apparent that there was a cast member who had been pulled from their normal job because they are full-time legacy, they couldn't be laid off or whatever, and placed somewhere that they did not want to be. And they were like, I'm gonna do it because I have to. And that is such, like, usually we'll experience that like once in a Disney trip. So someone kind of like, you know, but this was a lot more of just kind of that, like, this isn't what I want. And it could also, and I could
also be layoffs, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that as like a judgment. Like I would be the same exact way. Like, but it's just unfortunate that well, we can't wait till everyone can go back to the job that brings them joy, because I feel like for 98%, this is not a real statistic. This is in my brain, the statistic. So whatever percent of people are there because they love what they're doing there. I don't think that many people work at Disney for the money. From what I've heard, it's not, you know, that's not the job that you do if you want to just make a lot of money. It's the job that you do because you love bringing magic to people, and everyone has a different place in that magic. And if you're being pulled from the one that you've been doing for your life and put somewhere else, of course you're going to be a little cranky. And and we had like, we definitely went into this trip thinking, you know, usually you go on a Disney trip and the cast members are what makes it magical. And we're like, let's go into this trip and let's be what makes it magical for the cast members. Let's let this be the trip that, like, let's let the COVID times, they're doing everything that they can. Let's do what we can. Let's not be the people complaining about masks or making them go out of their comfort zone to yell at someone. Because I know a lot of people who are on that team don't want to be confrontational with guests. They don't want to be going up and potentially getting punched and spit on, which has happened. So, yeah, I want cast members to be where they are used to, like, back to where they are supposed to be,
and more cast members back in general.
Bring them home.
Bring them home. I'd also like to add that I miss the international travelers too. You know, I mean, Disney has a really large fan base in England and Australia. And, you know, being able to interact with people from all over the world when you're on your Disney vacation is kind of a cool thing too.
Yeah. just like some kind of not as important ones, but we're hopeful for construction timelines to get back on track because we're like antsy and excited for what's new, and we know a lot of that stuff has been halted. We're really excited for the monorail to Epcot to come back because that's one of the biggest perks of staying at the Poly that we felt was missing when we were staying there. It's like we love staying at like Pago Pago, Maria, like in that area, and you're just as close to getting to the Magic Kingdom as you are to getting to Epcot. But this time it was only buses that could get you there, which the buses were a little too many people at a time, unless you were lucky and you were the only one on the bus. But if they filled them up, I mean, they filled them up. They have the dividers, but it's still a tiny box full of people.
Yeah.
We are excited to lose the park pass system because sometimes we don't want to necessarily have to plan exactly what park we're going to be at every day. We like want to be able to just use our annual pass and be able to park hop. And let's see.
Which, in fairness, park hopping is back. It's a modified version, of course.
I know, but you still gotta start and do kind of
your designated.
I mean, by 2 o'clock, I'm kind of like, I'm done. Like,
I get that.
They're like, they're like, you can park hop after 2, and it's like by noon rolls around, I'm like, but I need nappies.
Well, it's interesting, you know, in a way, the way that my family has liked to tackle the parks works with the way that things are right now, even though we haven't been. We rope drop a park. We stay until like 11ish. When the park really starts to get busy, we bail. Go enjoy some pool, some resort time, a nice meal, and then back to the parks at like 3 or 4. Of course, now most of the parks are closed by 5 to 7. So that doesn't work out.
Yeah, it's you know. We're also, I think I mentioned this before, like we're just excited for that feeling of fear and guilt to go away, of traveling, just being able to post whatever we want and not have people be like, oh, look at them making COVID worse. Look at them. I got some comments on some of my TikTok videos that I was just like, okay, I get, oh, wow.
I wanted to ask you guys about that. What was the reaction from your family, your friends, and your social media contacts about you doing this experience?
I would say our family and our closest friends were really excited for us to be able to get away and have like a fun, good, happy honeymoon. That they were just like nervous the same way that we were about, you know, well, what if you get sick in Florida? Like, you go to hospital in Florida? Do you have to quarantine? How do you quarantine if you start feeling sick and you're at the Riviera? And you know, and your schedule is, because we were doing like 2 days at the Riviera, 2 days at the Contemporary, 2 days at Beach Club. So if I start feeling sick at that's what my biggest concern was. I was like, if I start to feel sick at the Riviera, I'm obviously not going to go to the Beach Club or the Boardwalk. But then where I'm like, just got to find an Airbnb. What do you do? So that was the thing. I was like, we have to be so safe and so careful and so cautious. And we were doing like, we were having zinc and vitamin C supplements every day. We were drinking kombucha. We were trying to like keep ourselves like eating healthy as much as you can in the parks.
And also every time we came back to the room, we would take our shoes off.
A massive
Lysol. And have hand wipes and Lysol right by the door and wipe everything down, spray every bag. Nothing entered the room before it was cleaned. And we would not walk around the room with our shoes on. I would literally spray the bottoms of the sneakers and leave them by the door with Lysol, just to be extra, extra safe. And I got a couple of comments from some people. I saw posts on Facebook like, hey, you know, dude, you realize there is a pandemic going on right now. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I respect that. Of course, call me out. We were being extra careful. Doesn't mean that it's 100% safe.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not. But I think out of all the places that we've gone to, Disney definitely felt the safest, safer than a lot of the places here in Hampton Bays.
Yeah.
Just because they were really strict about distancing. And most of the people that were there were also on the same page. It's like, okay, we need to be smart about this. We need to be safe.
Yeah.
And when everybody's working together at the same thing, it goes much more smoothly than, you know, people who were anti-science and anti-maskers and stuff like that. Doesn't help
we did not
anything,
get a lot of, I would say like of the tens of thousands of people that we saw walking around the parks over the course of 54 days, I saw 20 or fewer individuals who were not wearing their mask properly. And toward the end of the trip, I was losing my, usually we would just walk, make a nice wide, you know, give them a wide berth and a nasty look. that would be it. But toward the last few days, I would be like, mask, Matt, you forgot your mask.
Yeah.
And I would
feel like I saw some Instagram stories about that.
Yes.
then we realize it's time to go home.
Yeah. Okay. Couple more. Yeah, but what Joe was saying, the like having to wipe everything down and be super extra clean, I'm excited to not have to do that as much, but there are certainly parts of that will continue in our, you know, that's just safe just in general. But it'll be nice not to feel like you know, the first like little entryway into the room is like a steam, like a quarantine little chamber.
Yeah.
And like I kind of felt, because, you know, we'd walk in, he'd grab the Lysol and I'd just stand there and he'd be like, shh,
yeah, it's like a scene literally from Outbreak.
But, you know, I mean, I think that there are certain things, you know, not necessarily like that, but in terms of like, you know, the way the rooms are being cleaned now at Walt Disney World, the way planes are being cleaned on certain airline carriers, you know, no more buffets. Like these are all probably maybe some good things that we should keep going into the future, because you always, you know, those families that get sick on Disney trips. I mean, people would get sick on Disney trips just like they would on cruises, because of, you know, things not being as sanitary necessarily as they could be.
Yeah, one place that we did eat inside was the California. Well, we did California Grill because they put us in a like one of the separate rooms. I wouldn't eat in the main room because it was way too many people, way too close together. And then the Chef Mickey's, that's what I'm trying to say.
Chef Mickey's, yeah.
And again, that was like a separate room, and there were only 2 parties in that room, and we felt like really far away and like kind of in a corner, so it's not like we were surrounded on all sides. Again, it was like one of those like right at the edge of our comfort, and we ate really fast and left. But it used to be a buffet, and now what they're doing with the buffets is bringing all the food out to you family style, and it was amazing. Like I was like, this is, I don't have to go and get everything. They're just literally going to bring us like a little bit of everything, and they'll bring you as much more as you want.
They brought more than a little bit of everything. They brought so much stuff to the table, and they said, let us know if you need more. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like there's 2 of us here.
Yeah. We can't wait for pre-shows to come back. I know we touched on that a little bit before, but it's definitely strained. It like kind of takes away that getting into the moment. Like we got on Flight of Passage a couple of times when there was no line, and it's like the first room where, you know, you get sensed and like they pull the bugs off you, like that doesn't happen. It's open now to the second room, and the whole group is spread out between the 2, and both are happening at once. And then you go right in. It's not like you do the one and then do the next and then go on the ride. It's like you kind of wait there until you're ready to go in your seat.
Yeah.
And the cast members are talking to you. Both, you can hear both things going on. You're like, and then all of a sudden you're sitting and going on the, and you're like, okay. And Flight of Passage especially is such a buildup and such a, you know, like getting like each of those little moments like kind of gets you ready and excited about going on the Banshee. So if that's your very first time going on Flight of Passage and you don't know all of that stuff that you're missing, stay in there. You're like,
scratch my arm.
You're escaping. No, you're like scooting over. Okay.
Yeah, I think about a ride like Dinosaur, you know, the pre-show is like kind of critical to understanding. I mean, it's still a cool ride without it. You're just like on a dinosaur roller coaster, but you don't really know what the purpose of this experience is if you haven't had that pre-show.
Yeah, exactly. Lounges. I miss lounges. I miss Trader Sam's. I miss the Tune-In Lounge by 50s Primetime Cafe. I miss being able to order food at the Brown Derby outside little lounge. They don't let you.
Are they not doing that?
No, at the high tops
you can sit and drink a drink that you bought at the bar, but there's no, like, you have to go up to the bar and buy it. There's no
service. There's no service.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
And that's my favorite Bloody Mary in the world, and it was awful. It was just awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna blame COVID. I'm not blaming the bartender who made it. I'm blaming COVID because, and I'm hoping that it'll go back. I missed that Bloody Mary, but I had one and I was like, oh, no.
You did get to enjoy my favorite lounge, which is Nomad Lounge next to Tiffin's in Animal Kingdom.
Yes. And that is the number one must do at Animal Kingdom, especially with the water cavalcades that go through those little water things. Because you sit outside, we were like right next to the rail, and you're like, sip, look, oh, look, there's Mickey, hey.
Yeah, that felt extra safe too, just being outside and being against that rail, literally like you're sitting on the river.
Yeah. I have never done these, but I know that a lot of people miss them, and I'm excited to try them someday when they come back, hopefully. But Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, those aren't happening right now, and I hope that they can come back.
So my daughter and I did Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party in 2019 as a part of our girls trip. And it was great. And we actually, we purposefully, I'm a pass holder, so I can make this kind of decision without it being financially irresponsible, but we actually decided to make that a Magic Kingdom day as well, so that we could like really take our time in the morning at the resort. We went and had brunch at Grand Floridian Cafe and then went over for, we got in early around noon. The party, I think we could technically go in at 4 because we were resort guests, even though the party doesn't start till 6. It was really cool. And it was definitely a worthwhile experience. I do have to say though, I think the parties have gotten busier. I think they've sold more tickets than they traditionally have in years past. I've heard that from more than a few people, because it didn't feel like, by like 8-9 o'clock, it didn't feel like you were getting access to rides with really short waits or anything like that. It felt like kind of a regular park day, but just with like cool parades and amenities and stuff like that. So I hope that when they do bring those back, maybe they return them to being a little bit more of an exclusive experience. Kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever did Early Morning Magic, which is another hard ticket event. We did that at Hollywood Studios, and that was amazing.
Oh yeah, you told me you got to like walk right onto Slinky Dog.
We did Slinky Dog 4 times in a row.
That's great.
It was amazing. So I'd love to see the return of both of those things. But again, where you are paying extra money for it, it should feel a little bit more exclusive than the parade.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was Anita and Joe walking us through the bad on their list. Of course, there is a lot of good, and I'm sure plenty of that we also have to get to, as well as some of our questions from our Instagram followers. So we're going to have a very busy week of podcasts and videos, but that's a fun, good thing to have. So we will see you next time. This is Park Hopper Daily. And if you have not subscribed, please do so below. If you could also give us a like, maybe a comment down below, we'd really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Okay. Okay, so that was Anita and Chris.
That's the outro.
Okay.